guys, my name's Kim and this is my channel Expedition Through Pages. Today I thought that I would do the Milky Way Book Tag, which was created by Hannah from Handpicked Blog. She put it up a while ago in January and I've been meaning to do it since then because it kind of ties quite nicely into this round for the Book Club, which is run by Hannah and myself. This round for our book club, we're reading two books that are space related. So we're reading The Planet Factory by Elizabeth Tasker, and we're also reading Reaching for the Moon by Katherine Johnson. And so if you want to know more about that and about how you can join in with the book club, I'll leave the video links down below. I just wanted to say as well that we have a Discord for the book club. We haven't used it yet, it's just me and Hannah at the moment. But the lovely Amy from A Star Reads pointed out to me, I think in the announcement video for round 3, that the link to the Discord didn't actually work. And then I realised that when I'd set it up, what I'd done was I chose the link to last a day. So that was useless. Anyway, so I've updated it and I'll link it down below. So if you wanted to join in with our book club and you wanted to join the Discord, Discord is basically just a place where there's like little chat rooms and you can just chat about the book as you're reading it. We will be doing a live discussion for the two books as well. What is it? Not the end of March, but the end of April, I think it is. Yeah, I think it's in the beginning of May our live discussion will be. So if you didn't want to join the Discord, we'll be chatting about it then anyway. But I just thought I'd let you know in case you wanted to join in with that. Yeah, so I'm really excited about that. This one arrived and I just need to get the Planet Factory and then I'm all set to go. So this tag video isn't actually based anything to do with the book club, but it's just all about space, so I thought it went quite nicely with it, so I thought I'd give it a go. Hannah's answers as well were really fun, so I'll leave Hannah's video in the comments if you wanted to go check out her version of the tag too. Prompt number 1 is all about Mercury. I will say actually, Hannah, there's nothing to do with the sun here. There's no prompt related to the sun. I was tempted to write one in because I love the sun, but I've picked something else related to the sun to like drag it into the tag. So I got the sun in there somewhere. But yeah, so question 1 is Mercury, a book with themes of loneliness. So the book I chose with themes of loneliness is a book that I read really recently and talked about in my last video, which is Life as a Unicorn by Amru Al-Qadi. Life as a Unicorn is Amru's memoir, and they tell the story from their childhood up until their kind of young or early adulthood, and about growing up in a very religious household. I think the first time you kind of meet Amru is mainly in Bahrain, and then their family and themselves all move over to the UK and they end up going to a very prestigious secondary school in the UK and on to Cambridge University. Amru actually came out to their parents when they were young, maybe like 10 or 11, I think. It was around the age they announced that they were in love with Macaulay Culkin, and it went down really badly because of religious reasons. And for that reason, there was a dissociation between Amru and their family, and then Amru spoke a lot about trying to fit in at school and feeling like an outsider. And I felt like they did speak a bit, especially at the end of the book, about the loneliness that they felt when they felt estranged, I guess, to the society and their family as well. It was a very touching, it was a very heartwarming book at points and a very devastating book at points, and I do highly recommend it. You could feel the emotion in it, and I could definitely feel the emotion from the descriptions of the time where they felt the loneliness. But yeah, so that's what I'm going to go with for Mercury. And then question number 2 is all about Venus. And the question is, can you name a book set in a hot climate? So for this one, I've actually decided to go with Burundi as the country, which is in Africa. And this book is called Small Country by Gail Fay. And this book follows a young boy who is growing up in Burundi. He's from like a fairly rich family in Burundi. His father is from France and his mum is from Rwanda. And this story, I read it quite a while ago now, so I can't remember all the details, but there's a lot about talking about his really like nice childhood growing up in Burundi and the fun times that he spent with all his friends and everything like that. And it was very like heartwarming to read. But this is set in the 90s. And during the 90s, you're probably aware that there was like war and genocide in 93, I think, in Burundi, 94. I might have got my dates a bit wrong there. And this story is basically telling you about Gabriel's life as like a youngster in Burundi and his happy times leading into the time where war and genocide like turned up in his neighborhood, and how it affected himself and his friends and his family. Like I say, I can't really remember too much about this, but I gave it 5 stars, so I know that I did enjoy it, and there was a particular scene at the end that stuck with me for a long time. I remember close my eyes and then I'd see it, and it was pretty harrowing. But yeah, I'm really glad I picked this up, and I do recommend this one as well. Okay, cool. So now we're on Earth. And this is Name a Book with Multiple Perspectives. But yeah, what I chose for this is a book that I've literally just finished, and I'm going to be talking about it in my next recent reads little mini vlog type thing. But I just finished Grown Ups by Maren Keyes, and that is multi-perspective. You're basically following 3 different families, and you're changing perspectives all the time. So like mid-chapter you change perspective, and it feels like I listened to an audio, and so it almost felt like between like during a sentence you change perspective. That isn't quite true, but somehow that's what it felt like when I was listening to it. But I really enjoyed it in the end. Actually, it wasn't something that I would have picked up, but it was for a book club, and it's just about family drama, and I'll talk more about it in my vlog. But I did end up really liking it. Actually, I gave it 3.5 stars but I think that that's a good rating. I've decided to like maybe bring down my ratings a little bit. But yeah, I did really enjoy it. It was good. Okay, so now on to Mars, and this is a book that had potential that didn't deliver. And I think I remember Hannah saying something like the reason why she gave this to Mars is because there's so much potential for humans to live on Mars, but it's never happened. So it's failed us, which is a fair comment, I think. I think it's a fair comment. Hopefully one day we'll terraform Mars, because that would be pretty cool, but I'm down for that. Anyway, yeah, so like I was saying, Mars is a book that had potential and didn't deliver. And I don't know if this is a little bit controversial or not, because it's a fairly popular book on Booktube, I think. And for me, the one I chose for this is Daisy Jones and the Six. So this is by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and I read The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo and loved it. Like, I loved that book. It was so interesting, and it was just fantastic in so many ways. And then Daisy Jones and the Six, when that came out, there was a lot of buzz around it because obviously 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo did so well, but also because it was written in like an interview style, which I thought was like a really interesting concept. And I ended up listening to it on audio, which was completely fully cast, so you have all these different people playing all the different characters and everything, and I think that part of it was really good. I think the audiobook was like excelled basically, but I really hate to say it, but I don't know, I found it underwhelming. Really, I found like I just didn't really care about the characters in this book, and I didn't really care about, so basically the whole premise of this book is that it's called Daisy Jones and the Six, which is a band. So you have the Six, which was a band separately, and then Daisy Jones, who was a singer-songwriter, I think, from what I can remember, and they came together and they made this like mega band, Daisy Jones and the Six. And then the whole premise of the book is you know that the band has split up, but you don't know why the band split up. And they basically split up when they were at the top of their game and they were huge, and everybody was so confused about why this band split up. So it's a really interesting premise, but I wasn't that interested the whole way through. And I found the characters kind of irritating, especially the main 2 characters got on my nerves a lot. And I found the ending really underwhelming, from what I can remember. I actually can't remember what the twist was at the end, or what the reason was at the end. I don't want to give it away, obviously. Well, I can't remember what it is, so I'm not going to give it away. But that was my feeling, was just underwhelmed. So that, yeah, had potential, but didn't deliver, in my opinion. Okay, question number 5 is Jupiter. What is a big chonk that you loved? And to be honest, like, I haven't read many massive books in my life. I think the first massive book that I read was a Robin Hobb one, and now I've read the first Game of Thrones book as well, and that's about it. So out of those books, I decided to go with The Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb, which is the first one in the Live Ship Traders series, which the Live Ship Traders series is the second series in the Realm of the Elderlings, which is a 16-book series. And I absolutely loved this is a trilogy, and this book is massive. It's like, I don't know, 800 nearly 900 pages, and actually the next two in this series are bigger than this one as well. And talking about like multi-perspective stories and stuff, this is like one of the best multi-perspective stories I've ever read, basically. So I could have used it for that prompt as well. But yeah, this book, you're basically following so many different people, but mainly the Vestrit family. And the Vestrit family are part of these traders in a town called Bingtown, and they own these live ships, or they own one live ship. But they're part of a community that have live ships, which are ships that come to life when the third generation of a family dies on their decks. And this story begins with the Vestrit family's live ship coming to life, and one of the daughters of the family thinks that she is going to get the ship, but she doesn't inherit it, someone else does, and so that all kind of blows up. There's just so many different characters that you follow. Like I say, you do mainly follow the Vestrit family. I just think Robin Hobb just does such a good job of like delving into the workings of all her characters' minds. And you just really believe, or I really believed in these characters. They were so alive to me that they were just real. And I just feel like, and they're so vastly different characters as well. That's the thing. And characters in the fantasy world that are dealing with issues that we have to deal with, but then also issues that are so like magical and don't make sense in the real world. But then she still manages to make them feel so real. You love some characters, you absolutely despise other characters. Like, she's just amazing, and I really enjoy her writing. The first trilogy of the season wasn't multi-perspective, and it was very good, but I feel like this was made better because it was multi-perspective and because they're so long. So I hope that some of her other books are also multi-perspective as well. So after I've said multi-perspective about 100 times, I've only just remembered that I'm not talking about the multi-perspective question, I'm talking about the chonk question and Jupiter. It's massive, so yeah, that's why I chose it for this one. So question number 6 is Saturn, and the question is, can you name a book that gets a lot of attention that you've enjoyed? And so for this one I decided to go with The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells. This obviously gets loads of attention because there's like hundreds of movies and like adaptations and stage shows and radio shows and everything for this book. So yeah, it gets a hell of a lot of attention. And I don't know, I expected not to enjoy it as much as I did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. So this story is written as if someone is telling you a story of what happened to them. And it's set in the UK, and basically you're in Surrey, it's set in Surrey, and one day these alien pod things just appear out of nowhere, and nobody knows what it is or what's going on. And I did read this quite a while ago, so again the details have kind of faded from my mind a little bit, but I just remember being intrigued the whole time. I loved the way it was written. I felt it was interesting the whole time. I found it fascinating how everybody reacted to these aliens. I found it fascinating how the humans were acting towards each other because of these aliens, and when they started attacking and stuff. I just thought it was really clever. I thought it was a really good look at society and how people would react. I really liked as well because like I'm from kind of the area as well, so when you're being taken through where the aliens are kind of spreading to and everything, I just loved it because I was like, I know that place, I've been there, I've seen that, you know, you just can, personally I could connect more to it because I knew all the places, and that was exciting. So yeah, but yeah, I really loved this. And I do really want to read it again. I'm doing Becca's Bookopoly weekend this weekend, so I could read it because it's quite a short book, so if there's a prompt that comes up I might reread this, but we'll see how it goes. And links for Becca's Bookopoly-a-thon thing in the description if you don't know what I'm talking about. But yeah, love this book, it was so good. So much better than I thought it was going to be. Okay, so question number 7 is Uranus, or Uranus. A book with an embarrassing title that you've read, which cracked me up when Hannah came up with that one. Yeah, and for ages I couldn't think of any embarrassing title that I've read, and then it was literally today. That's why I haven't filmed this for so long. Like, this was put up in January and I wanted to do it since then, but I couldn't think of any embarrassing titles for ages. But yeah, so anyway, I realised one this morning, and that is Porno by Irvine Welsh. This is actually my boyfriend's book, and it's seen better days. Look at the yellowing. It shows how old we are. But yeah, so this book is the sequel to Trainspotting, so it's set 10 years after Trainspotting, and it follows one of the characters who's trying to make pornos, basically. And I only remembered that, well, number one, because it's on the cover, but number two, because I read it on the back. But the thing is I don't remember this at all, because I read it when I was 18, and I can't even remember what happens in Trainspotting now, to be honest. But I remember really enjoying it, and I think at the time, when I was reading it, I was embarrassed, like, on the trains and the buses and stuff, and was trying to hide the cover. So yeah, this is the most embarrassing title, I guess, I've ever read. Even though now it doesn't really embarrass me, but definitely at the time I think it did. Question, straight prompt, I never know what to say. Number 8 is a book that gives you chills. And for this one, I decided to go with Dracula by Bram Stoker. I'm a wuss, so I don't read like scary books or mystery books particularly, because I'm a wuss and I never sleep when I do read them. So yeah, when I was reading Dracula, I found it really creepy. It gave me the chills, and there's like a horrifying side story in here following a really scary character, not scary character, but following a character in a psychiatric ward. And he has a habit that was really like creeped me out. If you've read the book, you probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, I definitely did find this really creepy. And you probably all know the story of Dracula, but it's basically, well, it's a bit different to what I thought it was going to be. But it's written all in letters and diary forms. And at the beginning, you follow Jonathan, I think is his name, and he goes to visit a guy at a castle to do some business with him, and he ends up being stuck in this creepy castle with this creepy man, and then the story kind of goes on from there. But yeah, I found it really creepy. Okay, and prompt number 9, which is the last prompt. Hannah kept Pluto in with the solar system. Yeah, and the prompt for that is a book that doesn't get enough credit. So this is where I sneak in the sun in the Milky Way Book Tag, because I've chosen 15 Million Degrees by Professor Lucy Green. And this is a non-fiction book that is all about solar physics. And I really, really enjoyed it. So just in case you're interested to know, I'll just read you some of the things. She explains all about like the physics of light and the physics of like star power, like fusion energy. And she talks about like the magnetic fields around the sun and in the sun and stuff. And yeah, I found it really, really fascinating. And I actually bought it when I was at like a science, I think it was a New Scientist like weekender thing that they do. And I met her and she signed it and I was really happy. But yeah, loved it. And it's the sun, so it fits. But yeah, so that was the Milky Way Book Tag. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks, Hannah, for doing the tag, so I could join in, basically. And I guess I should tag some people. I might actually tag Amy from A Star Reads. If you would like to do it, then I tag you. And I think I also want to tag Helen from Helen's Book Haven. If you want to do this as well, then I'd love to see your answers too. Cool, so that's the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said before, if you wanted to join in with the book club, then details will be down below. I hope you guys are all doing well, and I'll see you soon. Take care, guys. Bye.